Thousands of kilometers away from Earth on his spacecraft is the Czech astrophysicist Yakob awakens. Peter, his close buddy and flight curator, calls him first thing in the morning. The people of Earth want to talk to the hero now. After 189 days of solo flight, Tuma, the leader of the Czech space program, welcomes the courageous pilot. The fact is, Earth has been witnessing an enigmatic celestial phenomenon known as Chopra's cloud for the last 4 years. Yakob was assigned to examine its composition and genesis on Jupiter. He will be able to collect samples in a matter of days that could contribute to the solving of the universe's riddles. After the captain posed certain inquiries, a female seemed to understand that he was the most alone person in the universe and felt sorry for him. Yakob, nevertheless, reassures her that this is untrue. Yes, he is 500 million kilometers from Earth, but he has already traveled about half of that distance, and he will soon be back. In addition, he has unwavering support from his cherished spouse, Linka, with whom he communicates directly via the newest quantum communication technology, which operates at speeds greater than light. Yakob does not experience loneliness as a result. During a commercial break, TV shows a happy Yakob praising the goods of a kind sponsor. The astronaut, who has obviously not slept in a long time, frowns at this and looks fatigued. In the meanwhile, Linka tapes a message to her husband on Earth in which she expresses her regret for abandoning him since he no longer needs her. However, the flight curator transfers the file to Tuma and halts its transmission. While on board the ship, Yakob fixes the toilet once again while berating Peter, who is more worried about the broken cameras. He tells the astronaut to get some rest after seeing how exhausted he seems. Linka doesn't seem to be responding to Yakob's calls, so he requested to get in touch with her, and he promised to investigate. When Tuma goes over his wife's message, the guy starts training. Sincerely concerned about the family, the mother has no intention of telling Yakob about this. Linka is now packing and is not answering her husband's texts. Yakob, who is distressed, attempts to sleep while consuming sweets to drown his emotions and observes the coming Chopra cloud. The sounds from the broken toilet keep him awake at night. He awakens exhausted and without sleep. He sees odd activity under his skin and tentacles sticking out of his lips when he looks in the mirror. Startled, attempting to extract some emotion from himself, Yakob eventually wakes up. After using the treadmill to begin the day, he gets ready to set up the equipment for sample collection. No one knows why half of the ship's cameras are malfunctioning. He is disturbed by the notion of Lena, who still doesn't establish eye contact. One day, Yakob hears a strange voice offering assistance, but Peter doesn't hear anything similar, although it is possible that Yakob caught the Korean mission's transmission, which began after the Czech one. The language used was not at all Korean. Later on, the friend told her that Lena had gone to her mother's house and would speak with her husband when she got back. Yakob settles down a little and gets back to work. As he looks inside each container, he unexpectedly spots a large hairy spider in one of them. He shuts the compartment doors and calls Peter, but he is unable to see anything since the camera in this specific area of the station has been damaged for a long time. When Yakob opens the doors, the spider is still there. Furthermore, it strikes up a discussion by saying that it wasn't trying to frighten the person. After that, the astronaut tells Peter that he intends to clean the spacecraft while locking himself in the airlock. Put in his spacesuit, he enters the password that activates the system, and the room fills with a disinfecting foam that recalls him of the hue of a summer morning he spent walking in the field with Lena. But once cleaning is finished, Yakob comes out of the airlock. The spider hasn't disappeared, however. It tells him it was unharmed by the weird bath the human had set up for it and advises him to take off the spacesuit. It's not harmful. When Yakob reaches out to touch it, the spider avoids him. Since this is against their tribe's culture, it is best for humans to refrain from doing this. It was also an explorer by chance, discovering Earth. It spent 3.8 years learning the languages of the planet and studying life there, but it was never able to comprehend the substance of the human spirit, and it came here, unable to understand what was occurring. After meeting Yakob and sensing his loneliness, the astronaut begins to clearly see and hear his wife as soon as he hides in the sleeping compartment. Yakob goes to the chamber at the station, where he sees Lena once again. It turns out that the reason the spider is sharing the human's memories is because it finds these unusual emotions fascinating and wants to support the human in overcoming emotional challenges. Yakob attempts to decline the assistance since his partner is departing, but the spider does not think he is serious. Because she is pregnant and can't be left alone, Linka travels to her mother's house on Earth in the meanwhile. She chooses to spend some time at a boarding home nearby where expectant ladies reside. Since a woman cannot now leave her spouse, her mother does not understand her. The spider begs the astronaut at the station to share some of his food, and he feeds it nut paste, which gives it a flavor that transports it back to its long-lost home. After an enemy invasion devastated its planet, It escaped and spent a considerable amount of time traveling across space. On Earth, Tuma visits Linka at this time. The wife is certain that she cannot divorce her spouse at this time, as she was aware of his unusual personality. These attributes allow him to spend long days by himself. But Lena is lonely since she is expecting a child. The astronaut is informed by the spider that wisdom-containing particles make up Chopra's cloud. It is impossible to determine its age, but everything, including the universe, has a beginning and an end. The spider depicts Yakob's first date with Lena, when he accepted her suggestion that they constantly follow one another. He also doesn't see why you would make commitments you can't fulfill. Yakob, however, is at a loss for words. When he later begged the spider to keep some of the nut paste, it grudgingly returned the can. Linka admits to her mother that she is prepared for raising a kid alone, even if it is difficult, and that she will tell her daughter that she first loved her father erroneously. At the station, Yakob had an epiphany about the name of the spider and proposes calling it Hannes. His father informed him of an ancient master who made astronomical clocks, and the monarch had ordered his blindness for this work. The spider accepts this name with agreement. Afterwards, the astronaut describes the music and shows a clip from Opera Mermaid. The guy doesn't want to recall the spider's instant demonstration of his date with his wife, who materialized in front of him dressed as Ned. Yakob has nightmares at night once again. This time, they are connected to his father, a communist who was killed for his convictions. However, the spider consoles its companion. Friend, there is no need to worry about the past, as the universe is as it should be. Afterwards, Yakob uses the quantum phone to finally reach Peter, but Hannes triggers the man's memory once again, causing him and his spouse to talk about their adventure. He didn't even bother to comprehend his wife since he was so sure in himself. The spider lost interest in Yakob and expressed a desire to go after realizing that he is a self-centered person and is to fall for his loneliness. The astronaut no longer wants to be alone, and this sends him into a panic attack. When Yakob attempts to catch the spider, it reminds him that it is preferable to speak without touching by pressing the man's body against the bulkhead. After letting the person free, the spider takes off toward the other end of the station. Desperately following it and vowing to turn around, Yakob once again spots Lena masquerading as a Naiad. He remembers his wife while floating in zero gravity and sobbing as he comes to terms with her passing. Then he gives Peter a call, inviting him to come see the lady. The buddy delivers the quantum phone to her at the boarding house. Yakob expresses his affection for her and begs for pardon for his self-centeredness. He now finds it incomprehensible that he disregarded the most valuable. He is unworthy of her and squandered his life away on foolishness. He hears Hannes's voice again just after the talk, requesting that he go to bed as he has made amends for his guilt. When Yakob begs to stay with him, the spider concedes that loneliness is something it too dread. The spider acknowledges that it was too late to flee the adversary when the man suddenly finds that it is not feeling well. His body was under their control, and then, for the first time in a very long time, it gives the astronaut a hug. Yakob nods out, and the spider needs to rouse him from his deep slumber because he is about to make an amazing discovery. He even has a hot coffee tube delivered to his bedbite. The astronaut then makes the last-minute arrangements. He makes contact with the Czech Space Authority and informs them that Lena is the reason for his mission's dedication to all Earthlings. After that, he slows down and starts using specialized equipment to gather samples. However, the spider then becomes very sick. Yakob gives up on his assignment to assist his pal. Error message by the device. Earth orders the sample collection to be cancelled. Yakob, however, doesn't hear anything since he sees Hannes in the open. One by one, the ship's systems malfunction, and the control center gives the order to terminate the mission and go back. However, Yakob dons a spacesuit, grabs a bomb, and exits the building. Unable to comprehend the situation, Peter begs his pal to go back to the ship, but Yakob catches up to the spider and uses the explosion to hold it. Though Hannes expresses gratitude, it is in vain. Before long, the enemy will devour him. As he surveys the area, Yakob recalls the day he almost drowned, but his father rescued him. At this point, he pardons both his father's misdeeds and his own. He is drawn by Hannes to the cloud's core, where everything is gathered, the beginning and the end, the ebb and flow of time, his past and future, himself, Lena, and his father, as well as every reward and penalty. Everything is mutable and transient, but that is just how nature works. The cosmos is in harmony with itself. When Lena reappears in front of the guy, Yakob acknowledges that their encounter, like the one with the spider, is a miracle. A can of nut paste that Yakob had kept for his buddy is given to him. The latter expresses gratitude to him and requests to hear the silence, which then breaks apart into millions of pieces that are eaten by worm-like creatures that wiped off his species. Then Linka on Earth notices something in the grass that glows purple. Day breaks from nightfall. As Lena, dressed as a mermaid, rests on a log above a translucent stream, Yakob, wearing a spacesuit, asks to kiss her. For a brief period, her face disappears from his view as he spots the lights of a South Korean ship that comes to Yakob's rescue. Later, he apologizes to his wife over the phone and admits that he never would have left if he had known everything beforehand. She gives him another kiss. In an amazing and realistic movie, a workaholic astronaut must be separated from his spouse for millions of kilometers and listen to an extraterrestrial sermon in order to realize that his family is the most significant aspect of his existence. It is hoped that he will be able to rediscover his sense of purpose.